Good evening, everybody. How are we all doing? Welcome on into the Athletic Performance Factory for episode 5 of Region Football Weekly, presented by Tire Pros in Maryville. Mike Dewan, alongside me is Jay Simmons. Jay, week 5. What?
Yeah, how about it, man? We were here just a few weeks ago, and we were doing the first show of the week 1, and all of a sudden we're in week 5. It's flying by really quick.
Teams are really starting to kind of iron out their identity moving forward. Conference play is well underway, and we'll kind of talk about the standings in some future episodes, Jay. But we got a whole slate of games to go through, as we typically do. But Jay, I guess any big surprises or anything that maybe sticks out to you through these first few weeks of the season?
You know what? Really, Michigan City 2-0 in the Doolin. I mean, that's just, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, wow. Hey, all right, so they sort of separated themselves in the top tier. You know, you only got two undefeated teams in the Doolin, Crown Point and them. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. And when we go through this week's slate of games, it'll be interesting to see what we come up with.
We had a busy Friday night. We had 4 games on the Region Sports Network, all Doolin games, and we'll talk about those Michigan City Wolves. But we'll start it off at the Marshlands as the Munster Mustangs hosted the number 4th ranked Andrean 59ers. Andrean got the win 21-7. A slow burn over there, Jay, but Andrean just about controlled the clock in that one. The Bowman Academy Eagles, this one was a basketball score, to say the least. 62-34 in the Battle of the Birds. That game was played at East Chicago Central, and East Chicago Central gets the win there. They got a great quarterback in their backfield, Darian Morris, who was leading the area in rushing, second in the state of Indiana in rushing yards. I think he has a double-digit touchdowns already, and the leading rusher, Miles McLaughlin of Knox, he's flirting with the all-time record. So kudos to Morris there in the backfield for ECC. The Calumet Warriors, Jay, we'll pump the brakes on this one. Highlands homecoming, and they put on a show for their fans. Upset the Calumet Warriors, we could say, by a score of 31-30. Justin Cole, the Calumet alum, does not like that one. A big win for Coach Ben Geffert and the Highland Trojans here, Jay, to do that on homecoming too.
Yeah, how about
that's pretty nice in front of your fans.
Well, and I remember reading the scores, and every time I was reading the scores, Highland was down, and I came in here, and all of a sudden somebody came and goes, "Hey, Highland won 31-30." I'm like, what? I did not believe it. I mean, what a comeback for Highland, and on homecoming. Man, just unbelievable. But that's going to put us a little chip in their step. We're going to be a little happier this week going out to practice. Looking forward to this upcoming week.
What do you remember about homecoming games at Highland as a former Highland Trojan? They're just homecoming games in general. You've been on sidelines as a coach too, as well. It's a fun event.
Yeah, it is. I remember when I coached at Valparaiso University, we were everybody's homecoming because we were 1-10 that year. But it was, the stands are a little bit louder. The crowd's more into it. There's a lot more students there at the game. So there's a buzz in school on Friday, a little bit more so than any other week. Just any other week. You get that little excited about, especially for seniors, the senior night. But boy, this one just gets the whole school involved, and everybody's drawn to it. So it's exciting.
It can be a little bit of a distraction for players and coaches.
You got to stay focused, definitely.
And that's probably a challenge that coaches have, but not a challenge for the Highland Trojans. We get a big win there, 31-30. A little bit kind of about the game. Highland won a total team effort, one of a few teams in this week, so congrats to the Trojans. Aaron McCormick, a sophomore quarterback, was 11 of 15 for 155 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, has a great connection with the junior wide receiver Justin Slavin, had 7 catches for 126 yards and a touchdown. Big win there for the Trojans. For Calumet, they dropped their first game of the season. One piece to look out for, Brody Mueller was kind of their guy under center for the first 2 games. Not sure if there's an injury lingering, but he has not played in the past 2 games. Calumet still a team to look out for, especially in the GSSC. Moving on, Jay, the Whiting Oilers got the win at home, 39-0 over the Calumet Christian Patriots. A game that you were at, Jay, and we could circle back into this one a little bit. You and I both talked about on the wrap-up show, but 42-0 was the final score at the burial grounds. The Lake Central Indians hosted number 1 ranked Crown Point Bulldogs. Crown Point, obviously, plenty of different looks, a lot of misdirections, and a lot of new faces that seems to be kind of a new guy every single week. But they got the job done here. But Lake Central, if they tie a couple things up, this score is it doesn't paint the full picture of how they played that night.
Yeah, definitely. If they tighten up their special teams, the special teams put them in the hole so many times the past week. And to beat Crown Point, you have to play a perfect game, and they did not do that. A couple penalties, some stopped drives. I mean, Crown Point, just so many looks. And like you said, every week it's a different guy coming up and making some big plays for Crown Point. It's hard to just isolate on one guy. I
Yeah.
mean, think about it. You take one thing away from Crown Point, the next thing you know, you got another guy stepping up and playing a great game. And they just against the game I saw them against Lake Central, boy,
Yep.
they just loved pounding that ball and time, clock control. They threw when they needed to, but they really love controlling that clock.
And two quarterback system too.
Yes.
I mean, they both. It's not like they are indecisive, but they both are extremely talented, and they've shown it here so far. Jay, Crown Point moves to an unblemished record. We'll talk about both these teams moving forward. The 10th rated Griffith Panthers got a big time bounce back win, 49-0 over the Boone Grove Wolves, getting back on track now as they enter in the GSSC play. The number 2 rated Hobart Brickies keep on trucking along to a 4-0 record with a 40-7 victory over the KV Cougars. The LaPorte Slicers, a game we did on the Region Sports Network. LaPorte Slicers visited the Chesterton Trojans. The Trojans got the win there, 34-14, I believe, was homecoming over there as well. Big win for the Trojans, who may enter in our top 10. We'll talk about that a little bit later on Region Football Weekly, but a big win there at home, and especially in front of your homecoming crowd. A game we'll stop and talk about a little bit more here, Jay. The Lowell Red Devils got who was kind of a thorn in their side for these past few seasons in the NCC, the Hanover Central Wildcats, but the Red Devils escaped 35-20. And I'll tell you what, Lowell, again, they could win those games ugly. We've seen it here before, and it was maybe some higher score, some more points than what we're accustomed to seeing from previous Lowell teams. But this team, again, so far, 3-1 record. They're undefeated in the NCC. This is a team that's only going to, hoping to improve as they get, closer to it.
Yeah, and you didn't think this was going to happen, with the new coaching staff, just taking the program in a different direction, and all of a sudden Lowell just playing great football right now. I think they're going to be a surprise in the conference. It's going to be a 3-horse race back to the way it used to be.
Probably one of the plays of the week, and it's something where we're accustomed to seeing Lowell just kind of run smash mouth football. But one of the cool plays of the week, which we're definitely going to overlay as we're going over this, but they had a touchdown. Brody Kowalski had a touchdown reception. He is the quarterback of that team, mind you. And Timothy James, who also had a great day on the ground. The brother of Ike James, which we found out, of course, as well. 19 carries, 132 yards, 2 touchdowns, and the play that they ran, as we'll show it kind of right now, snapped it to Kowalski, threw it behind the line of scrimmage in what looked like the wide receiver screen to Timothy James. All 5 linemen just hit the deck. Throwback screen to Brody Kowalski and had a convoy in front of him. A little bit of trickeration here in Casey McKim in his first season with the program. Interesting to see. We're so accustomed to seeing just, them smash mouth football.
Smash mouth football. You definitely, yeah.
Get with the times, though.
That's right. Hey, it worked. Now, all of a sudden, all these teams that are moving forward, they're going to have to practice that play, and it's going to take an extra 5 minutes out of your practice schedule to go over that play. It's fun for Lowell, but it's also going to be a lot of hard work for whoever they're playing the next few weeks.
Chess, not checkers. Big win for Lowell. For Hanover Central, although the loss here, some stability at some kind of positions in this new look Hanover Central team, not only on the sidelines but on the field. Seems to have found their quarterback in Wyatt Toole, a junior quarterback, at 17 of 32 for 218 passing yards and a touchdown. A couple other juniors, Lucas Velisca, who had an interception again, his 4th in 2 games, and Dominic Giglio, junior running back, at 18 carries for 92 yards and a touchdown. So some pieces to look out for, not only for the rest of the season, but potentially next year for the Hanover Central Wildcats. But Lowell moves to 3-1 overall with their 1 loss coming to Crown Point. That's a quality loss to have for this Lowell Red Devil squad. Keeping things moving, Jay, where was I? We'll stop here. A top 10 matchup on the Region Sports Network live from Viking Field. We were for the Michigan City Wolves, who were number 7 at the time, taking on the number 5 Valpo Vikings. And Jay, this game was fireworks. It was Patriot night at Valparaiso High School, so that was super cool to see just as a fan, a viewer in that case. But the game was probably even more exciting, 27-21 in favor of Michigan City. A battle between 2 quarterbacks. Trinison Hart of Michigan City played his tail off, and Kellen Hosick did just about the same thing. Michigan City got out to a 27-14 fourth quarter lead. Zaire McKinney had a day at the receiver position, and I don't know if this is an upset here, Jay. I think you predicted this on
yes, I did.
The previous week's episode.
That's right. I had Michigan City. It wasn't the exact score that I had. I think I had it a little bit more, 35-24 27, but I did have Michigan City winning. I thought Michigan City's playing really good football right now, and they just seem to keep it rolling. I mean, look at this, the first Michigan City win over Valpo since 2021.
I believe that was, I know I was not around with you guys at that time, but it was in, I think, the regional or sectional championship double overtime game. Does that ring a bell?
No,
potentially.
It does not. I can never remember what I had for breakfast today.
That makes two of us. But yeah, it's been, again, since 2021. I mean, a generation of, a full class of Michigan City Wolves that have not beaten Valpo or are pretty close to it. So big shout out to them to go into enemy territory and take down a Valpo team that now, Jay, I don't want to call this panic time yet, but their first 1-3 start since 2014. Would you consider this? Yeah, it's been a tough schedule. Yes, again,
yes.
You schedule Brother Rice, and you got Penn in the opening week, and then you have to, you get a get-back game against LaPorte, and now you got to take on Michigan City that they've had success with, obviously, in these past few seasons. But what has been kind of Valpo's, I don't know, it's unfamiliar territory to say the least.
That's right, and I think a lot of it stems in the defense just hasn't been able to slow people down. I mean, they're giving up quite a few points this year, and it just seems like they're always playing from behind. Whatever game it is, they're always playing from behind, so that means they got to throw the ball a lot more, and it's just not what they're accustomed to doing, even though they're doing it a lot more this year. It just, when you're playing catch-up football, it's always hard to do.
I will say, what's another close loss for Valparaiso as well in the opener against Penn. They had a chance to win it, down only, or I think to tie it up. They were down by a score, and Penn stuffed them. I think they got a fumble recovery on Kellen Hosick. Kind of same thing in this game. Again, down by 6. Michigan City did not convert on their point after attempt when they scored, to get that 27th point, and that kind of opened the door for Valparaiso. It went down the field, scored very quickly, and had a chance to do it again. And that's now 2 one-score losses for this Valparaiso squad. That, hey, if those go the other way, Michigan City was kind of on this side of the coin last year. Valparaiso now is kind of on the other side of experiencing those tough losses. But we'll talk about both these teams moving forward. But a big win for Coach Cody French, a signature win at Valparaiso, 27-21. Feel free to rewatch that game on the Region Sports Network. Morton traveled up to Michigan to take on Byron Central and did not get the win there. 17-34 was the final score in favor of the Bulldogs. Bulldogs will win this going into that game, but a good team up there in Michigan. And Morton, we were talking about on Region Football Weekly, it's not, you could play anybody up there in Michigan, but you still got to take the drive, and that's not easy.
And we looked at it online. It's 3.5 hours by car, so you got to figure a bus ride that's 4 hours plus somewhere. You're going to have to take a break, so you're probably talking a 5-hour drive going up there, and it's just pretty hard to bounce back from that and get onto the field and play, the way you would play at home or somewhere in the region. So, nice for them to take on a team like that, but it's an awfully tough drive.
And it's an even longer bus ride home. It seems like kind of
it
is
is
as well. But more, some brighter days ahead. They got a favorable schedule coming up here. We'll probably talk about them a little bit later in the show, as most of these teams we will do. A game on the Region Sports Network, an audio-only broadcast live from Demery Stadium. Number 3 Maryville Pirates took on the Portage Indians. That final score was 44-23. Jay, we'll keep this one short. Portage showed a little bit more fight in this game. Obviously, Maryville, that's a tough team to go up against at their home field. But Portage, you got to take those moral victories. Kudos to Brad Cease and the Pirates for a big bounce-back game, of course, as well, coming into this game 1-2. Portage as well, 23 points. A little bit, optimism going forward.
Well, I think they're starting to put the pieces together offensively. Because the game I saw them against Lake Central, it looked like the Keystone Cops back there. Guys were running into each other. The quarterback got knocked down by a running back a couple times and a couple fumbles. The wrong guy was trying to get the ball from the quarterback. So they're starting to get the flow a little bit better, and good for them. It's a rough season the way it started, how it came about this year. So they're starting to move in the right direction, building for next year.
Nowhere to go but up and onward for sure. But Maryville gets the win there. They get a big bounce-back game. They are now 2-2 on the season. Hammond Central drops one to the Shortridge Blue Devils at home, 26-24. The Lake Station Eagles fell to the West Central Trojans, 14-54. Westside lost to the River Forest Ingots. Westside was undefeated going into that game, but River Forest, a big win there, 37-20. That game was played at River Forest. And the 6th-rated Wheeler Bearcats, a team we'll talk about here shortly, 52-0. Punch in and punch out. The Bearcats do once again. Bishop Knoll, a team that a new head coach, a lot of new identities over there. Wheeler, a team to look out for sure. Thank you all for watching Region Football Weekly, presented by Tire Pros in Maryville. Next up is the Enigenberg Home Improvement Top 10. Stay tuned on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.
At Strachan Van Til, we believe grocery shopping should be simple. Now, shopping is easier than ever with our new and improved website. Find what you need fast. Browse your favorite products, add them to your cart, and check out in just a few quick steps. Choose between convenient in-store pickup or let us handle the heavy lifting. From our shelves to your doorstep. Skip the lines, shop your way, and spend more time on what matters most. With our rewards program, enjoy incredible savings and personalized offers every time you shop. Shop online now at strachanvantil.com or download our app today.
Hi, I'm Crowd Company's Lantern Man. If you're a contractor, it's my job to make your insurance coverage simple and affordable. Because I know time is money, I'll come to your business. Certificates and bonds are a snap. Wherever you are, whatever business you're in, we've got you covered. As Crowd Company's Lantern Man, I'm your insurance superhero.
Crowd Companies, insurance professionals. Highland, Merrillville, and Michigan City.
Thinking about what to do after high school? Consider a career with Boilermakers Local 374. As a Boilermaker apprentice, you'll earn while you learn. We offer excellent wages and benefits, and as part of our no-cost hands-on apprenticeship program, you'll learn from the best in state-of-the-art training centers and on the job. Become a union Boilermaker and get on your way to a great career. Find out more, visit www.local374.org or call 219-845-1000.
From lighting up Friday night football to powering the classrooms that shape the students of Lake County, IBEW Local 697 is proud to support our region's schools and the communities we call home. A career as a union electrician could be your next great move. Your next cap might be a hard hat. IBEW Local 697, powering futures, powering the region.
Four Seasons Mechanical proudly serves Northwest Indiana, providing quality, reasonably priced, reliable service. With a quality and comfort guarantee, the professionals at Four Seasons Mechanical offer a wide range of services in heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Whether it's residential or commercial, Four Seasons Mechanical is there 24/7. To find out more, the website is fourseasonsmechanical.com or give them a call at 219-756-7020. Four Seasons Mechanical, your indoor air quality specialist.
Flip the switch, a light turns on. Press the button, machines and instruments come to life. Touch the screen, communicate with the world. Simple tasks, guaranteed results, every second of every day. That's the power of power. And that's the power brought to you by the NECA contractors and electrical workers of Local 531.
Hi, this is Tim down at Tire Pros and Auto Superstore, 5200 Cleveland, Maryville. 219-887-3333 is our phone number. We've been serving the region and building relationships with our valued customers for the past 23 years. We have a wide variety of services, quality tires with the best warranty in the nation, and some of the most skilled mechanics I've ever worked with. Let us exceed your expectations. We're setting a new standard. Come on down, ask for Mike or Tim. We'll take excellent care of you. Thank you.
Back here on the Region Sports Network, live for Region Football Weekly, presented by Tire Pros in Maryville. Tire Pros, we are more than tires. Jay Simmons, right. Mike Dewan, Justin Cole, our producer, live from Athletic Performance Factory. The Enigenberg Home Improvement Top 10 time. Jay, a couple teams on our bubble. Yep. The rotating door kind of in that latter half. A lot of teams on our bubble, such as Lake Central, Hanover Central, Westside, all fell, got kicked out of the bubble, and now we got a small bubble of three. We'll start with the Morton Governors, a team we just kind of talked about. Took that bus right up, take on a good Bulldog team in Byron Central up there, and it's a tough game to kind of play. But again, they got budding superstars. A guy at quarterback with Amari Price. They got Amir Daniels out wide, a sophomore. Again, the Cameron Miller injury. I'm looking at some film, haven't quite seen him out on the field. That Kentucky commit, of course, the offensive lineman. But this team, especially moving forward, with their conference schedule coming up, and they might find their way in their top 10 here pretty soon.
Yeah, I think as the schedule moves forward, the weakness of their schedule is going to help them get into this top 10, I think. And, we got a couple close battles coming up for some other spots, so we'll go over those in a second. But, yeah, Morton's looking pretty good right now to get into that top 10.
I'd say so. Again, it's kind of It's kind of what you got to make of it. When you have a conference of 3, you got a couple weeks to fill. And so next up for them, they got Phelan Academy and Calumet Christian, both games to be played on Saturdays. I believe both of those are home games as well. They do have a very solid out-of-conference opponent. I believe it is week 8 they typically play Hobart. I believe they'll have them at the Brickyard as well. So that's a big test.
Yeah, that'll be a fun.
It's kind of unfortunate again. Yeah, with the small conference, you're gearing up for a 5A sectional that has Maryville, and I really wonder what the challenge is like, Jay, and you could maybe speak on this, but to really try and prepare your guys for, again, there's only so many weeks that teams are available, and they got these weeks booked when they have conferences, and sometimes it's the way the cookie crumbles. You got to do what you got to do, but, what are your thoughts on kind of, preparing Morton for a sectional that has a team that has won, I think, 7 or 6 straight sectionals in a row?
Well, I think for Morton Governors, you just play who's on your schedule.
Yeah.
As an athletic director, you try and get whoever you can. With only those many conference games locked in, you've really got to scramble. And I think it showed last week when they went up to Michigan on a 4-hour bus ride. But you just got to play, full out every play, all the games, and try and get your guys executing well. If they can execute well and hold their ground in these games, then maybe they got a chance, versus the rest of that 5A sectional with Maryville in it.
And I say definitely don't get complacent. If you have a favorable schedule coming up here, this is not what you're going to see when you get to the 5A. Not only with Maryville, but you have Hammond Central as well. You have Munster, that they're going to give you fights as well, and they might just be obviously bigger teams enrollment-wise than maybe what you'll see on the schedule. The Calumet Warriors were kind of vouching for that 10 spot, but after that loss to Highland, they still kind of linger in that bubble area. The biggest test all year, and although against maybe some questions under center, obviously there's a reason why they're not in that 10 spot. A tough loss to Highland, and a team that, again, a favorable schedule going forward. They were punching up to a Highland team that was 4A and in the NCC. Calumet still a very possible chance to crack that top 10.
Definitely, and moving forward, looking at the Warriors schedule, you've got week 7, you got Wheeler, and week 8 you've got Griffith. So they've got some tests coming up, so they can move in and bounce right back out in a heartbeat here.
Or they could play some spoiler and really kind of mess some things around. There's no better role to have than, if you're not contending, play a little bit of spoiler, maybe knock some teams out, especially in the GSSC that, hey, that's kind of up for grabs, of course, and the team's looking for that outright supremacy. The third and final team on the outside looking in are the River Forest Ingots. Knocked out a team that was on our bubble last week, got a big win against Westside, 49-0. But Jay, it is time to get into our top 10, and our lone new entry that was on the bubble last week are the Chesterton Trojans, coming in at number 10, 2-2 overall, 1-1 in the conference. Had a big win against LaPorte. Got to give a big shout out to Lucas Anderson. Had a pick 6, had a sack, had 8 tackles. I believe he also had a scoop and score. I think he had a fumble recovery, but I think he also took that to the house. So he's a player you want on your fantasy team despite only playing defense. But Chesterton, a big bounce-back win again to another homecoming victory, of course, as well, that we had on the Region Sports Network. To see them bounce back, and after that tough loss to Michigan City, this is still a team that, hey, they want to play spoiler now in the conference. That there are some undefeated teams at the top, but at this point, you're trying to get better and get ready for a 5A sectional that's relatively wide open.
Yeah, and you got Andrew Gavea with 82 yards and a touchdown this past week. So he's getting back on track. So they're going to be a fun team to watch. Moving forward, like you said, it might be a spoiler alert for them in the Duneland Conference.
And gone are kind of the days of Chesterton really being one-dimensional. Gavea, again, only 82 rushing yards. Jay, when you look at his box scores last year, and that number, 82 was a down week for him. But now, looking at the development of Hunter Boyd and looking at how Chesterton is kind of rolling out there, they run a lot of play action a little bit more and kind of use Gavea as, yes, he's still going to be that threat when he has the ball in his hands, but now we could set up something with Hunter Boyd on a play action. He had another great game against LaPorte. His last 2 games, 267 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, just 1 interception. You could just kind of see him grow in the course of the season. And having a running back like that, I'm sure that helps Boyd's case out as well.
Oh, definitely. That means he doesn't have to carry the load. He can spread it around, and on first and second down, you can run some play action and be effective with it. When you draw those linebackers up, you can find some holes in the zones.
Got some good pieces out wide as well. Gus Wish and Lewis Raff, and I believe both had scores. Both were recipients of Boyd's 2 touchdown passes against LaPorte. The 9th-rated Valpo Vikings still holding on to a top 10 spot. They were the lone 0-2 team after their tough start to the schedule. Moved up to the 5 spot after a little bit of shuffling of the deck. Got their win against LaPorte. and now fall back down to their lowest spot of the season, the 9 spot. 27-21 they lost against Michigan City. I think we talked about some of the problems of the Valparaiso team. The defense, again, it was a unit that is definitely still retooling and trying to get back to what we saw in previous seasons. But this team also cannot really run the football that well. 72 rushing yards, 2.9 yards per carry versus Michigan City. It's just uncharted territory there, Jay. And although Kellen Hosick has been kind of a magician, asking him to throw the ball a fair amount of times, we talked about how Chesterton, that kind of benefits Hunter Boyd, a sophomore quarterback. Kellen Hosick, you kind of got to go out there and, at this point, kind of do it yourself.
Yeah, especially when you're only averaging 2.9 yards per carry. You definitely got to lean on your quarterback, and that play action just isn't going to hold those linebackers. They're going to be bailing out of there quickly and getting into those lanes for passes.
For more reference, for these first 4 games for Valparaiso, they only average 101 yards per game as a team, 3.8 yards per carry. Those numbers were just about doubled in 2024 with Thomas Berta and company, 208 yards per game, 5.7 yards per carry. So if there was a place to maybe start in terms of, hey, this needs to be a little bit better, it might be that rushing game, especially with a quarterback like Kellen Hosick.
Yeah, but we got Kellen Hosick. You got to give him better protection and let him throw the ball. I mean, if they got to hang their hat on something, let's let it hang on Hosick's head.
And again, 2 close losses. You do have to kind of realize that, although a loss is a loss, and that's still going to be in that column. They did lose to Penn by a score, and same with Michigan City. But again, this was a team that they haven't lost to since 2021. They've had their number, and this is a sectional opponent. Michigan City was. That's something to look out for. And then, that grouping with a bunch of Dillman schools. But the development of the wide receiver core, at least, is something that is very positive with this Valparaiso squad. A new-look group, to say the least. Jimmy Parisi had 8 catches for 115 yards and 2 touchdowns. Chase Lovick had 5 for 92 and a touchdown of his own. But the first 1-3 start for Valpo since 2014. That's also hard to believe, Jay. It's
quite a while ago. Hey, man, it's that's pretty good record since then. And you got down here that year they went 2-8. So I don't think they're going to go in that direction. I think they're going to bounce back. The coaching staff is going to right the ship a little bit. The hard part is getting through the season and trying to get those guys hyped up for practices and things like that. It's when you're 1-3 and you haven't been there in a while. It sort of hangs over those guys' heads, and it's definitely going to be a hard time to get. The coaching staff's really going to have to pull some magic out of their hat and get these guys motivated and get them out there and get back in the right direction.
Yeah, you really got to dig deep. You don't want to be that team as well, of course, in Valparaiso's history. That, again, they've won sectionals these past X amount of seasons, of course, as well. The standard is set high, and again, the pressure starts to kind of, the walls kind of start caving in.
That's right.
When the losses kind of come in. But a big chance to kind of shoot back up this list. We'll talk about that later in the show, a top 10 matchup on the Region Sports Network. But keeping things rolling, the Griffith Panthers get a big response, 49-0 in their first game in conference play. Out they are of the NCC, in they are in the GSSC. Beat Boone Grove 49-0, their first defensive shutout of the season, improving their record to 3-1 and 1-0 in their conference. And I'll tell you what, for Griffith, unlike last year, where they didn't lose to until Wheeler.
Yes,
and
week 9.
To suffer that loss earlier in the season, we could really see a more dangerous Griffith team than maybe what we saw in that week 1 through 8 stretch last year.
Well, maybe they got their heads on their shoulders a little bit righter this wind. The bubble isn't getting bigger and bigger each week as they go undefeated. So, sometimes you get some positives out of a loss, and hopefully Griffith can keep the ship right and once they get into this conference. It's gonna be interesting to see how this rolls out. They, week 8 and week 9, they've got Calumet and Wheeler, so it's going to be some tough matchups going forward.
And I think it's a favorable schedule a little bit. You start real tough, and you kind of get that litmus test, like something you see from like Andrean in their out-of-conference schedule, and you got a guy like Phil Mason who was at Andrean, did a lot of great things at Andrean,
yes,
probably knows a thing or two about scheduling tough, and it's kind of that same approach here at Griffith now as the standard keeps rising. And now, again, this team is hungry. They, like you said, they got their head on their they're ready to really make some noise, and they have a favorable schedule coming up here. They got River Forest, a bubble team. This was a 3-point game last year, but last year was last year, and this is, again, a new River Forest program with a new head coach, a new quarterback, and some new pieces. But watch out for these Griffith Panthers, I will say, in the GSSC and potentially beyond. Lowell moved up to the 7th spot now, 3-1 overall, 1-0 in the NCC. Got their first win in the NCC over the Hanover Central Wildcats. You talked about this game, Jay, but their best start since the 2020 season. and that team was super well. Did a great job, of course, with Keith Kilmer. But it's a new era at Lowell. Casey McKim doing some great things. They got a guy like Timothy James in his backfield, the brother of Ike James. Again, 19 carries, 132 yards, and a touchdown against Hanover Central. Something's brewing there, Jay,
That's
and it's
right.
exciting to see as just fans of region football.
Yeah, definitely. As Lowell goes, it's like, when Andran and Lowell and Hobart are doing well, that conference becomes very, very tough. And then this week, the Lowell Red Devils got Highland. So a test this week, not a big time test, but still a test. Highland coming off that big victory from Calumet last week. So see if Highland can keep it rolling. Lowell just seems to be clicking right now on all cylinders since that loss.
And if they were to get past Highland, I believe the game after would be at Hobart. They do take on Hobart. I do not know the exact location. But overall, I mean, that game could have a lot of big implications. Yes. And I guess, Jay, before we move on to our 6th-rated team, Lowell's overall chances, would you say, in the NCC? I mean, I don't know if we could safely say after, these first 4 games they're the favorite here yet. But, I mean, we talk about that third team like we do in the Duneland. And the NCC, it was kind of more like this year, where you had your Andran and you had your Hobart. But Hanover Central, what do we kind of know about them? Lowell, of course, a new head coach with, again, some returning pieces.
Just coming out of nowhere, it seems like, because you think, all right, this new head coach is going to take a year or two to put the pieces together. And now all of a sudden, boy, it's week 4, and he's got this team rolling.
And Lowell still kind of doing with the rushing attack. Got a dual threat quarterback in Brody Kowinski as well that could throw the pigskin, but 185 rushing yards per game, 5.9 yards per carry. Kowinski could run the football, as well as a budding superstar in Timothy James. Watch out, another James on the horizon, decked out in 32 for the Lowell Red Devils. Kudos to them, 3-1 on the season. The Wheeler Bearcats still unblemished at the 6th spot, 4-0, 2-0 in their conference. They beat Bishop Knoll 52-0. And Jay, this is a number that keeps improving. I think this is when the 130s last week. I guess doing our math, it was 134-7 last week in terms of outscoring opponents. That number has ballooned to 186-7. Logan Fox, the quarterback, did not have a ball hit the dirt. 11 of 11 for 243 yards and a touchdown. Levi Murray, the fantastic sophomore running back, almost scored on half of his carries, 5 touchdowns and 12 carries for over 100, over the century mark for 115 yards. And Jay, it's this Wheeler team, I think kind of what the philosophy was of why they're still at 6 is, where is this test?
That's right.
3-13 is, out of their 4 wins, the combined record is 3-13. And that's, smaller schools in the GSSC. Again, no discredit to what Wheeler's doing. They're dominating these teams.
They're taking care of business.
It's an interesting kind of dynamic. What's going on.
You're going to look at this, and then you go down a little bit further. When we get further into the poll, we got another team that's got the same problem.
Yeah.
So you just play with who's on your schedule. It's made in a couple years in advance. Just Wheeler taking care of business.
Yeah.
They're clicking on all cylinders to take advantage of what they have out there, and kudos to Coach Testa and his staff, just getting his team prepared week in and week out.
Yep. So we know what kind of waits for them in the future weeks. They got Calumet, week 7?
Week 7, yes, and week 9, Griffith.
Week 9, they got Griffith at home. Both of those are home games. And you kind of saw, I don't want to kind of compare 2 teams here, but Griffith kind of a lesser schedule last year where they were unbeaten for those first 8 weeks. And
right.
Coach Phil Mason talked about it when we ran into him. But, hey, when Wheeler came to us, we really got punched in the mouth, and we didn't know what to do. Then 2 weeks later, we played Knox, and we got punched in the mouth once again, and we packed our bags. There's kind of 2 different sides of the coin here, and we don't want to look till week 9 for this potential Griffith versus Wheeler matchup. But a little bit of a nicer schedule for Wheeler this year. They took off Hanover Central and, KV, what was kind of always a good matchup between those two. They avenged that loss on a KV team that is rebuilding, to say the absolute least. But how does Wheeler now maybe not follow down the path of Griffith of last year where if we get punched in the mouth, which they haven't quite yet, giving up only 7 points,
it'll be interesting to see how they adjust to playing from behind in one of these games at some point in time. If some team gets a score on them and they get behind, all right, the wheel's going to fall off, and Coach Testa going to be able to right the ship. So they haven't experienced it yet, but there's going to be a little panic somewhere in this season. And it'll be interesting to see who's able to bring it to them.
And if there's one guy to kind of, let them know about that panic and how to respond, it's probably Nick Testa, back-to-back GSSC Coach of the Year, and on pace to potentially make it 3, but they got some work to do. They got Boone Grove next week, hoping to make it 5-0, and might make us do a little bit more math on the outscoring opponents tab, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Entering the top 5, the lone new team in the top 5 are the Michigan City Wolves, and just a big-time win at Valparaiso High School, 27-21. And, I mean, they got a Saturday talent out wide with Zaire McKinney, 7 catches for 162, 2 touchdowns, had a big-time catch in the fourth quarter to really kind of put the game at least 2 scores. He played baseball last year for the Michigan City Wolves. He had over 40 stolen bases. He's also 6'3". I mean, a matchup nightmare out there, Jay, and Zaire McKinney.
Yeah, I mean, to think about it, the high school level, who has a defensive back that's going to be able to match up with somebody that's 6'3"? So that means, to me, you're going to have to put 2 guys on him. One to bump him at the line of scrimmage. Once he releases downfield, then you're going to have somebody over the top of that. It's going to really help that Michigan City running attack.
And more so, again, which they can run the football. They also got another guy out there, Meek Laurent, as well, who's done some great things. A boundary receiver that's kind of that Batman to the Robin and vice versa with Zaire McKinney. But they got a quarterback as well that has to distribute the football. And Trinniston Hart has been that guy, 16 of 24 for 293 yards, 3 touchdowns. It's Michigan City has shown here so far, which is probably what makes them so dangerous, is that they don't really need to throw the football that much. Hart had 87 passing yards and 2 picks last week against the Chesterton team, but they had nearly 300 yards on the ground against that Trojan defense and did a great job. Again, just to go back to an offense that could really do damage on different facets of the game. Keep guys fresh, of course, in the backfield as well. Daquan Fields had a touchdown. He had 1 carry, but he's just a guy that they could rotate in there as well. Trinniston Hart has some great things with the ball in his hands, but this Michigan City offense, which they also like to use a lot of tempo here, Jay, very dangerous and very next-level stuff of what they're doing over there with Coach Cody Furch.
Well, and I think, we're talking about all these specialty players. We're missing the offensive line.
Yeah.
What kind of job are they doing? Apparently, they're giving their quarterback plenty of time to sit back and throw. If he's throwing those long passes, those take a couple seconds to develop. It's also in the running game, they're getting big chunks of yards. And then also what they're doing is with that tempo offense, they're wearing those defensive linemen out, and they're pushing that ball down the field and getting those guys tired. And then all of a sudden they're taking advantage of it, and it's a great job by the coaching staff. But those 5 guys up front are really doing the job, and that's kudos to them, and also the coach, the offensive line coach, doing a great job getting those guys moving the pile and opening up those holes.
Spoken like a true coach. Big shout out to the big fellas up front, though. Got to stay in shape, too.
That's
for
right.
an up-tempo offense. You usually use those huddle times to get your hands on your hips and put your hands over your head and get a couple of breaths. But when everyone's looking to the sideline, of course, to get the calls as well. And you got to get up. There is no huddle. All right. We're all got to be communicating. We all got to communicate, and that takes a lot as an offensive unit. But Michigan City, a chance to move up this list, and we'll talk about that later in the show. But now up in our top 5 are the Wolves. 1 through 4 stays the same. The Andrean 59ers are now 3-1 with their win over Munster. 21-7 was that score. Again, a slow burn like we kind of mentioned in the open. But Andrean, again, this is a team. I think their identity is kind of clear here, Jay. They could run the rock. They haven't really done much in the passing game, but it's serviceable with Brady Elish back there under center and some good receivers out wide. But their defense as well, outside of that Maryville game, this team plays very, very strong.
Yeah, I think I wrote it down somewhere. Let's see. They have given up
15 points, you said?
Yeah, 15 points. 15 points defensively. They're only giving up 14 points, 15 points since the Maryville game, and averaging 21 points. If you can get that run game going for Andrean, all of a sudden that play action pass, and also you're staying ahead of the chains. You get 3rd and 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5. Boom! All of a sudden now you can throw those deep passes. It's going to make that pass game open up even more.
And Ethan Rana, who is a big piece of that defensive side, was not much of a ball carrier last year. Definitely more later in the season, but I'll tell you what. He is a tough one to bring down. He had a run against Munster, which was his lone score of the night, where he was bottled up in the backfield. And it's almost like 2 guys just about bounced off of him, found a hole, hit it right up the seam, and he's a quick dude as well. He plays that linebacker role, and obviously he's going to be playing on Saturdays here pretty shortly, but only a junior. But he had 224 rushing yards on the night, 9 yards per carry and a touchdown. As a team, Andrean had 289 rushing yards and a 5.9 yards per carry. 20 first downs, 64 total plays, milking that clock, which is why this might not have been the blowout score that maybe some people may have anticipated. But this defense, too, especially, Jay, offense wins games, defense wins championships.
That's right. And the big thing for Andrean is they're keeping their defense off the field with that running game. So the less they've got to be out there, the better off it is. Basically, and it's still a lot of guys playing both ways for Andrean, but if they can keep that offense on the field, it's going to be a lot of good things. That's sort of the tempo that Lowell likes to play at as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it just wears on you, wears on that other unit as well. And they got a recipe over there, and it's a recipe that'll win them games for sure and be competitive in the NCC. The third-rated team on our list are the Maryville Pirates, who get off to a 2-2 record after the win last week over Portage. You speak about good defenses. Maryville has one over there, 3 takeaways against the Portage Indians. Karan Moore, the Southeastern Missouri commit, had a sack, 8 tackles, forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. And Michael Hill Jr. is just one of the best pieces around at the quarterback position in the area. Jay, we are completely spoiled, I'd say, with quarterbacks. And Maryville's got a guy in Michael Hill Jr. who's
That's right.
He's a cat for sure.
Yeah, and the thing is, you talk about efficiency. He's up there at the top. He's thrown to spots where his receivers can catch it, and they're doing something with the ball. Once they get the ball in their hands, they're making plays.
And they got guys they could kind of, put out wide. Cameron Jordan, who was kind of that second piece to J.Q. Johnson, who's still around with the team, but did a lot of this work in the backfield. What they've done with Cameron Jordan, who had a couple big plays, a couple big chunk plays, they lined him up out wide. He was kind of the leading receiver, I think, on that team for quite some time. But he's also a guy that they could, jet passes with and really extend the field horizontally and really test any opposing defenses. But he's a guy to look out for. Ryan Lewis as well. Maryville, again, a real tough team, and only going to get tougher, especially once you get kind of Crown Point out the way. Yeah, you need some help on the Duneland, but this is a team that I think they're definitely that second team, and they're going to stay in there. And they could really be, again, that number one team.
Right.
I mean, pound for pound, in the 5A class. They played Crown Point very, very well. But Maryville, this is still a team that is very poised to get to Circle City, to get over that semi-state hump, and really, keep chugging forward.
Yeah, they seem to. I tell you what, though, if I'm any other school in the area and I'm consistently making it to semi-state, I'm pretty darn happy. But they seem like they're not happy with that.
Yeah.
And they want to get over that hump. So, kudos to them to getting there all the time. Let's see if they can finally get that big push and get over the hump and get to Indianapolis.
It'll definitely be a heck of a lot sweeter if
Yes.
they do that, for sure, compared to a team maybe just making it to semi-state for the first time and getting over that hump. But they got the pieces to do so. Getting into our top 2, that stays the same as well. The second-ranked Hobart Brickies now 4-0, 1-0 in the NCC. They beat KV Cougars 40-7. Alex Tatum have a day again. 4 touchdown passes on 6 completions. Yes, 6 completions for 160 yards. Brings them up to season totals of 686 passing yards, 10 total touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. Doing a great job of holding on to the football. Also, again, 2 100-yard rushers. This offense is super, super potent. They did it again against KV. Aiden Cash at 107 yards. Miles White, a sophomore, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns. Did not see much of Max Pickett. Interesting to see if he sidelined with an injury. He had 6 touchdowns against Munster the week before. Jay, this is a team offensively that has improved. Looking at 2024, only 126 passing yards a game. That was in Alex Tatum's sophomore season. That number has jumped up to 190. And now the rushing attack, that was 163 per game last year, 232 in 2025. Something's clicking with an offensive mind like Eric Schreiber Jr.
Yeah, Coach Schreiber is spreading the rock around. Again, we've talked about it with several teams that we've gone through so far, and how diversified they are, and what they can run or pass, or they, both. A lot of these teams can do both very well. So it makes that defensive scheme a lot harder. Hey, do I blitz? Do I take this away? What do I take away? But yet I know I'm going to get burned on this one. So it all depends on how you want to play it.
And it's nice when you get Alex Tatum back for your senior season as well next year for the Hobart Brickies. A true budding superstar is trying to do some big things on Saturday nights. So far, he's doing some good things for the Hobart Brickies in his preps career. Also, 3 guys to mention with 10-plus tackles against the Cougars: Josh Diaz, Vontrell Jones, and Miles White. The aforementioned Miles White all had double-digit tackles. But, Jay, we got to pump the brakes on this about Hobart here. We talked about the combined record of the Wheeler Bearcats in terms of who they've beaten. That number's actually worse for Hobart through those first 4 wins. Combined record of 2-14, and both those wins are from one team, the Chesterton Trojans, who definitely was their most quality victory in the opener. But you mentioned, got to play who's on your schedule.
That's right.
But a test, they got a test coming this week, tomorrow night, to say the absolute least. But interesting to see, again, what happens when you really got to do something. You really have to make a play here when things are little shaky.
The chips are down.
Yeah.
The one thing that's good about this coming in so far this season, 4-0, you spread the ball around. It's going to make it that much harder for the defensive coordinator, whoever they're playing next week, to prep for the game. Also, off defensively, you got 3 different guys with over 10 tackles. It's, all right, so who do I focus on blocking? What, who do we really want? What side do we want to attack? Where is the weakness? And all of a sudden, you don't really see one. So it's really hard for both whoever they're playing this week, and we'll talk about that in a few seconds, that the other team's going to have a hard time scheming to see where they want to move the ball or defensively how they want to attack this offense.
Now, you may have kind of answered this in your previous response, but how difficult is it to watch film on a team that all they've done is connected on that, have a completion percentage where Alex Tatum, 4 touchdown passes, 6 completions. You have multiple guys that are running for 100 yards in the game. They just look like world beaters, and it's the team's probably doing what they're told. They're doing the right things, but also, again, they're going up against opponents. Like we said, a combined record of 2-14 with their first 4 wins. It's almost a little bit tough to judge that, hey, does this team make mistakes? What's kind of what do we need to do? Hey, maybe this is a lapse on this guy when they're looking like, the 85 Bears out here.
Well, I think what you got to do is you definitely got to scheme your defense, try and put them in 2nd and long, 3rd and long situations. You definitely got to attack that ball and try and find what weakness. All right, go back and say, okay, where is that one spot that we think we can attack and get to the quarterback here, or this spot might be a little bit softer over here to this side. We're going to attack here. So you got to look and see. Really, you got to dig deep. If you're the opposing coach, dig deep and get into those game films and try and see where could that possible weakness be.
Especially when you got a game coming up with their future opponent, which we'll talk about on the next segment, but we're not going to spoil it just yet. Spoiler alert, probably here already. You probably imagine who is the number 1 spot. It's the Crown Point Bulldogs, 4-0, 2-0 in their conference, 42-0 over Lake Central. Once again, 31 straight regular season wins, 23 now in the Duneland. They're en route. One of 2 undefeated teams in the Duneland Conference, but they play Michigan City Week 9, who's that other undefeated team. But we can almost say they control their destiny here. Crown Point,
yes,
they've had success over Michigan City and formally closed the book on them, but we talked about they give you so many different looks. They're so fresh. They got new pieces all across the board that just find a way to make plays. And you got a coach on the sideline, the Indiana Football Hall of Famer, and Craig Buzia, he's especially hungry to get rid of those runner-ups and start to get a state title to his name, and he's got his guys playing in the right direction.
And you get, hey, well, hopefully you'll show the Griffin Van Tickle.
Yep. 92-yarder.
School record 92-yarder. Was it 92 officially?
90 plus.
90
sure,
plus. All right, there we go.
But it was a nice return.
Yes, it was. And now all of a sudden you add this element to the special teams. Oh boy. It just makes it that much harder to game film or get ready for this team. If you got the special teams now punching in touchdowns, and then you've got this offense that they've created where they've got guys pulling and trapping here and pulling here. It's just going to be a nightmare.
What can you say about the 2 quarterbacks again, Tice Custia and Cooper Mulaski? Who, again, we talked about. It's not like they're indecisive about who's the right guy, but they just both complement each other well, and they both kind of give defenses another headache.
Yeah, definitely. And watching the game against Lake Central, you don't really see like, okay, this is the running quarterback, this is the passing quarterback. They both do everything equally well. So it's not like all of a sudden, okay, all right, this guy's in, the 6'7" quarterback. You just don't know. They both can run the ball very well, and they both were throwing some nice passes down the field. So. You have a 1A and a 1B or 1A point 1 or something. I don't know how you would, it just seems like there's no rhyme or reason on how they're putting in the quarterbacks, or there's no set rotation. Cooper Mulaski had 2 or 3 series in a row, then all of a sudden they bring in the other quarterback and he had 1 or 2 series, and it's just, so you don't know as a defense coordinator, well, okay, how am I going to plan this? You have no clue. And all of a sudden, I think we talked about it Friday night after the Lake Central game, they had 4 different guys take the snaps.
Right, Gibbs had a Wildcat touchdown, I thought I saw as well, and you got a piece like that. But yeah, the old adage goes, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. But they have 2 quarterbacks
that work, and how they're doing it, and I don't know how their rhyme and reason is, but it's working well for them, at least to this point.
All right, time to preview some games after the commercial break. You are watching Region Football Weekly presented by Tire Pros in Maryville, live from the Athletic Performance Factory on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.
With electrical services from Economy Electric Heating and Cooling, you can radiate the perfect amount of light and energy into your home. From rewiring and code upgrades to ceiling fans, lighting, security, and more, Economy Electric Heating and Cooling's trained electricians will make sure you can enjoy your home on full power all the time. For a free estimate on electrical work, call Economy Electric Heating and Cooling at 219-923-4441, and you can visit them on the web at 4ajobdoneright.com. That's the number 4ajobdoneright.com.
Earn while you learn from the best hands in the business. The Bricklayers Allied Craftworkers for Indiana, Kentucky Apprenticeship. That's right, this is a paid apprenticeship.
I'm getting an education while learning a trade and getting paid for it.
The thing that surprised me the most about this apprenticeship program is the respect I've received after the proper time and training.
Classes start soon, so apply now. There are training centers throughout Indiana and Kentucky. We are the Bricklayers and Allied Craftworkers for Indiana, Kentucky Apprenticeship. The best hands in the business.
Level up your haircut at Level Up Barber Lounge in Highland. With over 30 years of combined experience, walk in today and get treated by some of the best in the business. To book an appointment, call 219-513-9083.
Calling all current and future homeowners in the Northwest Indiana area. Whether you're buying or selling, Brent Wright is here to make your real estate journey smooth and successful. With years of experience, personalized service, and a deep knowledge of the market, Brent will help you find the perfect place or get the best deal for your property. Call today at 219-406-7195 and take the first step toward your real estate goals. Contact Brent Wright the right way to buy and sell real estate.
Have you checked out Centier Bank's student checking account? This no-fee checking account is perfect for students and teens ages 14 to 24 and comes with all the features you need to succeed, such as a debit card, digital banking, and automatic deposit. Centier Bank can help you start establishing good spending habits today for your better tomorrow. For more information, visit Centier.com/student-checking or visit your local branch. If you are under the age of 18, your parent or guardian must also sign on the Centier student checking account. At the age of 25, your account will automatically convert to the Centier checking account. You must deposit $25 to open this account. This account is not eligible for overdraft advantage. Member FDIC.
Or hit up Big Al, Big C, or Axel at the Booksy app or webpage. Head to Level Up Barber Lounge in Highland for a well-executed cut like a well-executed play. The Athletic Performance Factory is Northwest Indiana's premier athletic training center. The 40,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility features batting cages, a sand training room, a new outdoor turf infield, and so much more. Check out the facility for one of their daily classes at 3150 45th Street in Highland. Interested in signing up for team workouts or individual lessons? Check out their website at trainapf.com or contact them at 219-750-1087. Athletic Performance Factory, where athletes are made.
Back here on the Region Sports Network, live for Region Football Weekly, presented by Tire Pros in Maryville, coming to you live from the Athletic Performance Factory. Jay, I finally got a haircut, but for those looking out there, where can they get one?
Head to Level Up Barber Lounge for a well-executed cut like a well-executed play. Make your next appointment on the Booksy app with Big Al, Big C, and Axel. And that's not Axl Rose.
Great job.
All right, yeah, those guys are.
But Jay, it is time. Again, we got games tomorrow night. A busy slate on the Region Sports Network. 4 games coming to you tomorrow night on the Region Sports Network. Also have a bonus game coming on Saturday that we're all talking about. But first, you got to get into some games not on the Region Sports Network. The Boone Grove Wolves will take on the 6th-rated Wheeler Bearcats. That game will be played at Wheeler Bowman Academy. Will travel to take on Calumet. The Calumet Christian Patriots will take on the host Bishop Knoll Warriors. The Hammond Central Wolves will play the Culver Academy Eagles. Highland will travel to the Inferno to take on our 7th-ranked Lowell Red Devils. Moving on to the backside, Jay, the game we'll talk about first. The biggest non-RSN game here going on in the region is a top 4 matchup for NCC supremacy. The number 2 Hobart Brickies travel to Father Eckert Field to take on the 4th-rated Andrean 59ers. Jay, how do we break this one down? Well, first off, you got to look at Hobart's schedule. We talked about that just a second ago. This is their first true test. How are they going to react to some adversity? It's going to be interesting. Coach Schreiber, I'm sure, has got the team prepared. They're breaking down film. They're probably tearing that Maryville game apart from Andrean game. And
they've got to find some spot of weakness here. They've got to control the line of scrimmage, I think, is the biggest thing for Hobart. That running attack, you talked about Andrean. Usually Andrean, in the past with Coach Skinner, they've been as close as you can to 50-50 run pass, but it seems all of a sudden this year they are run heavy, and you go with what works. So for Hobart defensively, they've got to control that line of scrimmage, get Andrean in some uncomfortable situations, second, third, and long, keep them behind the chains for a Hobart victory.
And one thing we could probably say about this game, when I ask you for your prediction here, is this game could probably go down to the wire. These last two teams have split their last 4 meetings, I'll say, all decided by single digits. Were you at this game last year, the overtime game at the Brickyard, 27-24?
No, I was.
Walk off from Willie Shear here. We'll break it down. 27-24. Hobart got the win there. 2 quarterbacks that will be back under center once again this year. Brady Ellis went 12 of 25 for 256 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 3 interceptions, a number he's looking to kind of take down this year. He talked about that Andrean rushing attack. They only had 22 rushing yards against Hobart last year. That number's only hoping to improve if they want to stand a chance in this game. Ethan Aranda didn't do much in the backfield, and obviously we talked about his performance in the Munster game and in the early parts of the season. Watch out for him in this one. Alex Tatum last year against Andrean, 16 of 28 for 219 yards, touchdown and an interception. Had 156 rushing yards as a team for the Brickies. Touchdowns from the former Willie Shear, senior last year. Max Pickett, Aiden Cash as well. 2 guys to watch out for come tomorrow evening. But Jay, this game, big implications in the NCC. Right. Photo finish potentially in that conference. Who's your winner? Give me a score prediction. Maybe the players to pop off in this game. What do we think?
Well, I'm going Andrean 21, Hobart 20. Hobart goes for 2 on the last score, and Andrean squeaks away with the victory.
Andrean would then move to 4-1 and sole possession of kind of that top spot in the conference. Again, 3 undefeated teams in the NCC. 2 of these are in this game with the Hobart Brickies and the Andrean 59ers. And Lowell, of course, watch out for the Lowell Red Devils come later in the season, but one to look out for the NCC fans out there. Another NCC game, the KV Cougars will take on the Hanover Central Wildcats. KV looking to get in the win column, while Hanover Central still trying to vouch for the NCC, some spot up there. The Munster Mustangs travel to East Chicago Central to take on the Cardinals. A game to be played on Saturday is the Phelan Academy Falcons against the Morton Governors. That game will be at the Mansion. The Griffith Panthers will be back at the Boneyard to take on the bubble team, the River Forest Ingots. West Side will host Stratford Spartans. I believe they're from Tennessee. Speaking of branching out, right, some out of conference opponents.
That's a stretch there.
That is a stretch going down there. But now, Jay, it's time to dive into our 4 games. Yes, 4 games on the Region Sports Network this evening. All Duneland games, once again, 4 great ones. We'll start it off with Lake Central and LaPorte. 2 teams really just looking for momentum once again here. Lake Central, we saw last week, and Lake Central, we could start with them, a team that is looking to kind of do the little things right, and they got kind of something at hand with their special teams. They have LaPorte has a guy who returns kicks, who returns punts that can give them fits as well.
Well, if I'm Lake Central, I punt the ball out of bounds, and on the kickoffs I squib them, because guess what? That takes that ball right out of that guy's hands. So you don't want to give. You got a special player that's back there like that for LaPorte. You take the ball out of his hands. You squib kick it, pooch kick it on the kickoffs, and then punt the ball out of bounds. And I've done that before as a coach when I see somebody really good, or because I'm usually one of the special teams coaches, and we always go, okay, here's what you're going to do. You're going to pin them into the sideline, or the ball's going to be going out of bounds. So we work with the kickers on that punt aspect, and then on the other side of the ball, the kickoff team, definitely squib it.
Reed Raymond is the guy to watch out for LaPorte. He has a kick return touchdown this year, made a lot of noise against New Prairie in their lone win. He's going to be a guy you hear all night. He barely leaves the field. He plays defense as well, and kind of the main guy offensively for the LaPorte Slicers. About LaPorte as well, one thing they could probably look to get better at is their turnovers. They have 7 in the first 4 games of the season, 4 fumbles, 3 interceptions. You want to take this Lake Central offense off the field, and this is Lake Central. We know they can run the football. LaPorte has done pretty well in the rushing game against teams like that, but you can't give Lake Central short fields to at least get some points on.
Definitely, and you've got some ball hawks on the Lake Central defense. Yeah. They've had a pick 6 against the team from Grand Rapids, so they've got some ball hawks out there. They like to turn that ball over. They attack the ball. So it's, if LaPorte can't handle the ball, man, it's going to be a good night for Lake Central.
Exciting player matchup to see
That's
there.
right.
Brody Ramirez, the fantastic linebacker for Lake Central, and Reed Raymond, the guy, of course, we talked about for LaPorte, doing some great things in his junior season.
Yeah.
That game will be audio only. You got anything else?
I just wanted to say Brody Ramirez, the Boilermakers 374 blue-collar player of the game.
I believe it was their leading tackler as a sophomore, too, so a gamer already, and obviously got some awards, too, his name on the Region Sports Network. That game will be audio only. That game will kick off, as well as all these games will kick off at 7 o'clock. You can find all of our streams on Facebook, YouTube, regionsports.com, and the IHSAA Champions Network. Coming to you live from the Warpath. A live video broadcast will feature the Crown Point Bulldogs, a team you also saw last week. We'll be taking on the Portage Indians. Jay, this might be lopsided kind of in terms of looking at where these two teams stack up in the Duneland. Portage, obviously, you welcome in once again the big bad Crown Point Bulldogs. How do you kind of scheme up for this one and try to at least get some moral victories if this game gets out of reach?
I remember we were just talking about it off the air. We did this game a couple years ago at Portage. Coach Richards at the time, onside kick, get the ball, score. Crown Point goes 3 and out, get the ball. Portage going into score was going to be up 14-0, and then I think they turned the ball over or went for it on 4th down. Coach Richards real aggressive, and then it was they held their own for the first quarter, and then it sort of got taken away from them the rest of the game. But Portage came out and shocked them a little bit early on. Let's see if they can do that again this year.
And I'm sure you could try and play to your environment when you're at home.
Yes.
That's a lot better than playing at the Dog Pound, which Crown Point is a very tough team to beat at alone, especially at the Dog Pound. So Portage will be at the Warpath. 7 o'clock kickoff. Their coverage will begin shortly before for number 1 Crown Point at the Portage Indians. Another game, one of two top 10 games on the Region Sports Network, a game at Chesterton High School. A big-time rivalry over there. The 9th-rated Valparaiso Vikings will take on the 10th-rated Chesterton Trojans. Now, this was the game that you were at, I think, that regular season game last year, the Philly Special, right? In overtime, these two teams play each other close, although Valparaiso has really had the upper hand in this rivalry. Chesterton chomping at the bit here, Jay, especially in, kind of that mid-tier of the Duneland, and that sectional, if these two teams could potentially see each other again, that this is kind of a nice early season test of what's to come maybe in November.
And just think of it, this week, whoever loses this game, the staff will knock them out of the top 10. They'll be outside looking in, right?
That is correct on the Eggenberg Home Improvement top 10. Yeah, you got no much more room to drop outside of the bubble, and who knows? Again, this game could go one of two ways, I'd say here, Jay, with how close these two teams played each other last year.
Well, I think one of the things is going to be, can Valpo defense stop the Chesterton running attack with their running back doing so good so far this year? I mean, and you look at it on the season, Chesterton averaging 17 points offensively, defensively giving up 20. Valpo pretty much in the same boat, scoring 20 points a game, giving up 22. So both of these teams are fighting from behind, I think, right before they even start. I'm giving the edge. If you want it now, I'll give you.
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. I'm going with Chesterton. It's going to be a low-scoring game, 17-14.
Interesting. I guess a little bit more analysis on this game, but a very interesting one there. Yeah, going to be a close game, I think I could say. 22-21 was that game that you were at last year. That was a walk-off Valpo special. We could call it a play on the Philly special from what we saw in the Super Bowl to walk off the Trojans, then beat them 28-21 in the sectional championship. Valpo has won the last 15 meetings, despite how close these games seem to be. Valpo has really had the upper hand in this game, but this is a new look team that, hey, again, you don't have Thomas Bird on your backfield. And we talked about the rushing attack in Chesterton. We saw 2 defensive touchdowns last week. Jay, obviously, I guess more going into your prediction of Chesterton walking out with this one. Low-scoring game.
I'm going against the trend, and I think the lower the scoring is in this game, the more in favor it is for Chesterton, because that means they've got ball control.
And they're the home team as well. Going to be a packed house there, a game on the Region Sports Network. Cannot wait for that one, especially cannot wait for what will be another packed house and another. Now, this is a top 5 matchup, we could say, between the 3rd-rated Maryville Pirates and the 5th-ranked Michigan City Wolves. That game will be live at Ames Field, a second-to-none environment. I mean, both of these teams' respective home fields, fun places to watch a game, but Ames Field especially will be a good one. This is, I guess, right off the bat here, Jay, I'd say Maryville, although they got the pedigree. This is a team that's gunning, obviously, for Lucas Oil Michigan City, this is kind of a prove-it game, I could say, here for them.
Well, this brings them now into the other tier of teams in the Duland Conference. If they pull off the upset here, that puts them now 3-0, and then they're going to have to try and take on Crown Point. So this is a huge step for Michigan City. If they can pull this one off, it takes them into that top tier, and then it sort of separates them from the rest of the pack, and now Maryville sort of slides backwards.
Two teams offensively that do a lot of things kind of the same way. They got two very proven quarterbacks. Maryville's Michael Hill Jr., who only his first year under center. It's looked like he's been doing this for quite some time. I haven't seen he's been playing football all his life. I was going through just going through socials and stuff, and I even saw a picture of him. He went to as he was a little kid. They showed some old pictures of that Maryville had recently their Pop Warner night, I believe, against Portage. He was at a camp hosted by Nick Saban, went down to Tuscaloosa. He has a picture with Nick Saban. I'm sure we'll pull that up on the broadcast. But he's a gamer, obviously, no matter it being his first year starting. And Michigan City's got a guy in Trinison Hart, who, again, we talked about already. I mean, showed so much poise and moxie against Valparaiso, and Zaire McKinney out wide, probably, gunning to be the region's top receiver, both yardage-wise and just kind of the consensus of the top players you'd want out there. Two teams that are very, they evenly kind of get things done offensively in terms of they could run the ball as well and do things out wide. We expect a shootout in this one here, Jay. The team to make less mistakes or turnovers.
Here's where I think the rubber meets the road is can Michigan City's offensive line keep Hart vertical? That means keep that pass rush off him. Is he going to have enough time to throw the ball sitting in the pocket, get the ball down the field, let those receivers run those long patterns, because Maryville loves to bring heat. They're going to rush five guys. They're going to play man coverage over the top, and they're going to force you into some mistakes. Now, can Michigan City handle that pressure is going to be the key.
Maryville's defensive line seems to be year in, year out. Is just always a team, the unit to watch out for. Karan Moore leads that group of guys that just rotate in and out and find ways to get to the quarterback. And also, I guess one thing before we kind of go on this game, Maryville's start to the season in terms of opponents, again, you got Crown Point, you had Loyola Academy, which that game seems so long ago, but Maryville might be a little bit more tested heading into this game.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, the Maryville has put on some tough games early on, so yeah, I think this is where it pays benefits for them coming into this game, and well, if they can bring the heat, then Michigan City might fall down here.
Did you give a prediction?
I did not.
All right, well, let's cap this one off.
All right, here we go. It's going to be Michigan City 45, the Maryville Pirates 43.
Wow, a high-scoring one. I guess we'll have to find out and see if Jay's predictions hold up on the Region Sports Network. Again, the 4 games happening tonight. We'll run back through them. All Duneland games live from LaPorte, an audio-only broadcast, all kicking off at 7 o'clock. Lake Central takes on LaPorte. Top-ranked Crown Point Bulldogs will be at the Warpath to take on Portage. A top 10 match between the Valparaiso Vikings and the Chesterton Trojans, both at 9 and 10 respectively. And flipping over with the game we just talked about at Ames Field, the number 3 Maryville Pirates will take on the 5th-ranked Michigan City Wolves. But we also got some stuff for you come Saturday. The Lake Station Fighting Eagles will take on the Whiting Oilers at the newly named Jeff Kane Stadium. That game will be at 1 o'clock. That game will also be on the Region Sports Network. We'll be doing some fun things from Whiting High School, so be on the lookout for socials. We got a potential tailgate show with Calumet College, of course, as well. They got a game later that night. That Whiting game kind of fell into our lap. That game got moved to Saturday due to, I believe, a shortage of referees or whatever it may be. We'll take it, and we'll have a good game on the Region Sports Network between the Whiting Oilers and the Lake Station Fighting Eagles. But Jay, any final thoughts before we dive into Friday night come tomorrow?
Just got to say, man, I'm putting it out on the line here. I took 2 underdogs, I think, in Chesterton and Michigan City. So it's
you got the home teams, man.
Yeah, well, the home field advantage there. I think it's gonna be a long shot for that Michigan City team, but I think the way they're playing, they can do the upset.
Got to play to your home environment. Not quite football weather yet. No more home field advantage in terms of that regard. Although, of course, we're all in the same area, but still super, super hot out for whatever reason. But we're getting to the nitty-gritty weeks, Jay. For Jay Simmons, Justin Cole, and everybody here at Region Sports Network and the Athletic Performance Factory, thank you all for watching once again. We have a loaded slate tomorrow. 4 games on the Region Sports Network, which I'm not going to run through again. Feel free to go back in the show. We also have a Region Football Tailgate show. We have the RSN Zone coming back once again. We also will wrap things up here with the Tailgate show. And plenty more going on. And you can find our stuff on YouTube, Facebook, regionsports.com, and the IHSAA Champions Network. For everybody here, this has been Region Football Weekly, presented by Tire Pros in Maryville. We are more than tires. Live from Athletic Performance Factory. Good night, everybody, on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.
Hi, my name is Mark Macknick. I'm the owner of Mark Macknick CPA firm in Highland, Indiana on Kennedy Avenue. I've been working with Region Sports for years now. Started working with Chris years ago, just on some special projects, advertising here and there. After a while, kind of increased the advertising. Mainly was doing it for the community involvement. It's such a great network and program they do with the high school sports. But as time went by, I started getting on there more frequently, and then the phone starts ringing, and I was getting calls all the time from people. Hey, I saw your ad on so-and-so football game. I saw your ad on a basketball game. And it's really helped my business. It's increased the volume. We're a tight community in Northwest Indiana, sports-wise, and just a lot of community involvement. So that's mainly why I got into it. I remember watching one game. It was a basketball game, and I think there was a little bit of an altercation. And as the altercation was happening, my ad was right on the bottom, and someone typed in, "I wonder what Mark Macknick's thinking right now." And I was thinking, wow, this is awesome. It's really been a great feature for my business. It's the only advertising I do. I don't advertise anywhere else other than Region Sports. It's for the business, but mainly for the involvement with the community. I played high school baseball here in Highland. And ever since I've been advertising on Region Sports, a lot of my old coaches are now my clients. A lot of my old teammates come in here. My recommendation, if you're a business here in Northwest Indiana, I think Region Sports is, for your money, it's one of the best places that you can advertise. I mean, I can advertise on billboards. I could do anywhere I want to. And I choose Region Sports, mainly because I get a lot of feedback. Especially on the high school level, a lot of the parents, if they can't make a game, they're watching it online, they're watching a replay, the grandparents. So it's done wonders for my business, and it's my go-to for advertising. It's the only spot I would advertise. So if you're a business owner in the area, really look into advertising on Region Sports. It's going to be well worth your money, and you'll make tenfold on what you're spending. Region Sports Network, they're the only game in town, but they're more than just a game.